Momo it. When you want to get a trim and get fresh to impress you know who, just Momo it. When you need to pay your utility bills and domestic staff, Chani Momo. When you want to send love to the family back home, send some Momo. Join the millions of MTN Momo users all over Ghana and live life the brighter way. So just Momo it. MTN. Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to the Midday News. The news is live on Joy99.7 FM here in Accra and Kumasi. It's on Love 99.5 FM and over 30 affiliates across Ghana's 16 regions. We're on Kekeli Radio in Ho, Pad FM in Dalmango, Lolonyo FM in Hohoe, KTU Radio in Koforidua, and Radio Max in Takrade. You can go digital. It's on Spotify, Facebook, and my joyonline.com app. This afternoon, Office of the Presidency fights off claims government is corrupt in the latest Afrobarometer report, which ranked the presidency the second most perceived corrupt institution.
You are discussing corruption, and the results there is not an interpretation to the fact that the presidency is the second most highly corrupt institution in this country. That's not the interpretation of that result.
We'll also get to hear from members of another arm of government, which is describing as unfortunate a recent Afrobarometer report that puts MPs and parliaments as the third most corrupt institution in Ghana.
This is essentially a lawmaking. I will not for any moment say that MPs are saints and others, and for that matter, you cannot get anybody who does anything on top. I'm not saying that, but to say that the institution itself as a whole is manifestly so corrupt that it can be rated as a third.
Also this afternoon, health professionals at the Kumasi South Hospital resort to the use of plastic water bottles instead of required machines to aid breathing for preterm babies.
If you have 2 or 3 preterm who needs to be kept warm, the 3 of them would share one radiant warmer. And of course, when we have newborn infections, easily you're able to transfer.
Also this afternoon,
I said, get on board. Don't worry. Give me your number. Doctor, what's my name? Your service number. Meet you and fetch you. I should meet you and help you. Meet me there. You are the one brought me here.
Ghana Police Service will trigger its internal disciplinary processes in this matter following heated verbal exchanges between a junior police officer and a superior officer over police duties in public.
Henceforth, you are supposed to be in charge. If I see anybody outside any other place, I will apart from.
We have sports.
Well, after beating Joed Gonzalez in a title eliminator, Isaac Douglas has many odds lined up before him. In 20 minutes, we'll let you in on his best options from the list of a 2-time IBF bantamweight champion.
Also in the bulletin, we'll tell you why you should avoid having sex before a long journey.
God created sex, you have sex. If you're a man, you are knocked off, you'll be sleeping. And that is why immediately after sex, you find the man either snoring. He's tired.
That's coming up in our Drive Safe campaign and later on Showbiz when the oldies take over the battle of the newbies and drop the bass.
What for 2 man for Ghana? Which flow they in match?
I'm not surprised though. I knew someone could come test. I was expecting Emma Baga. Why you bringing Mama Darling? Okay.
We'll tell you all about the Ghana Niger Rap Challenge starring mothers of rappers. That and more here on the Midday News with me, Emefa. Apawu, please stay for details. Many thanks for your company once again. This afternoon, government is rejecting the perception that the presidency is the second most corrupt institution in Ghana. According to the latest Afrobarometer, the presidency, judiciary, and the legislature, in fact, all 3 arms of government were thought of as very corrupt institutions after the police, which came in number 1. We hear from technical advisor to the vice president, Dr. Kabiru Mahama, who believes perception does not paint the actual picture and raise issues with the sample distribution for the report. First, here's a report detailing the findings.
This is the report that leaves the 3 arms of government with serious questions. The executive, the legislature, and the judiciary are the second, third, and 4th most corrupt institutions in Ghana.
In the minds of Ghanaians, the most corrupt public officials are led by the police, followed by the office of the president, and then MPs, judges, and magistrates.
The 4th estate of the realm, the media emerged the second least corrupt. The respondent said the Ghana Armed Forces is the most trusted institution in Ghana. However, the New Patriotic Party emerged as the least trusted out of 13 different entities.
We see that the Ghana Armed Forces, religious leaders and traditional leaders and courts are the most trusted among the public institutions in Ghana. The least trusted is the New Patriotic Party.
More than 70% of Ghanaians said the level of corruption in the country has increased, a 24% jump compared to the 2019 report. Executive Director of the Ghana Integrity Initiative, Linda Kwafu, says this is worrying.
It's tiring talking about this problem. We know what to do. When we wanted to pass levy, we did it swiftly. We are just refusing to do it. One day we'll wake up and corruption has swallowed us. It's so endemic and it's so annoying and it's so disturbing. And so we are sitting on a time bomb. And this about time we rise up as citizens.
In the report, satisfaction with our democracy is at a 20-year low. Also, 85% of people say MPs never listen to them. For the president, his approval rating declined from 76% in 2017 to 30% in 2022. For Joy News, Michael Ashale.
We can now hear from technical advisor to the Vice President, Dr. Kabiru Mahama, who says a perception-based report is not reflective of the reality of the presidency. Again, he raised concerns over the sample distribution, saying it is not representative of the 2021 census.
I had a bit about concern about the representation. If you look at it on the face of that, you realize that it is not balanced because the population of Ghana is not 50-50. I'm raising this point because the methodology has stated that they are using the 2,400 sample was distributed proportionally according to gender, according to locality, and according to regions. There is also an issue about locality. As much as 60% of the respondents are coming from urban area. Even though we are having a trajectory where the population is gradually becoming urban or urbanized, we don't still have as much as 60% of the country population being in urban area. You are discussing corruption. And the results there is not an interpretation to the fact that the presidency is the second most highly corrupt institution in this country. That's not the interpretation of that result. The results that has been put in that particular slide, if you look at the slide, it's not just the presidency. It is across the moral fiber of this particular society. At the office of the president, the reason why office of the president and the police will always come first in any survey you do on opinion poll is because of the contact with the people. How many of the 2,400 respondents would have a contact with the journalists? How many of the 2,400 respondents would have a contact with the traditional ruler? How many of the 2,400 respondents would have a contact with the business executive? So when you look at the contact level, you realize that politicians always, almost all the time, have contact with them.
Oh, Dr. Kabiru Mahama gave government an excellent score in its fight against corruption. Now, he says the Akufo-Addo administration has done more to discourage corruption. Now, that's one leg or one arm of government. The other arm, the legislature, they are also fighting off the report and describing it as unfortunate. They say that, of course, they have done well in the fight against corruption. We can hear from Sanarugu MP, Alhaji Abi Efuseni, an MP for Botiano, English Amanfro Sylvester Tete.
He didn't tell us how they were going to fight corruption. He told us anti-corruption agencies and that the resources. What happened to the special prosecutor? That they went beyond MPP and appointed an NDC person.
Apologies for that wrong insert. We'll definitely hear from the MPs their take on this CDD Afro barometer. Well, for them, it's unfair and stems from a lack of understanding of the work of MPs. Well, let's stay in Parliament. My colleague Kwekwa Sante joins us on the line because the majority also on the Privileges Committee won the seat of Dom Kwabenya MP Sarah Joasafo to be declared vacant. I'll tell you more on this. But Kweku, let's talk about the Afro barometer report and reactions from MPs. Then we can talk about the Privileges Committee. What exactly are their concerns with these findings?
So MP's main concern, Emefa, is that the general public who were surveyed did not have a certain understanding of how Parliament works. That MPs do not handle money. MPs just do a lot of basic functions that do not involve the changing of money. And so they think it's just a perception that is being fed because MPs have created a certain image about themselves. And they disagree completely with the report.
Also, now let's talk about the Privileges Committee. We know that that report has been laid in Parliament, and Dom Kwabena MP, even though we are told he may be in town this week, tell us exactly how this is panning out in Parliament when it comes to Adwoa Safo.
So the report of the Privileges Committee was laid in Parliament on Monday. We now have exclusive access of some of these recommendations from the committee. We know that the report that was circulated among MPs recommended, among others, that the two MPs, Kennedy Ejapon and Henry Court, to be pardoned. When it came to Sarah Adwoa Safo, the House left that decision to the House. But now the report that has been laid in the House says specifically that Sarah Adwoa Safo failed to appear before MPs to explain why she should not lose her seat. And because of this, by virtue of a case, Professor Kweku Asare versus the Attorney General, the seat of Sarah Adwoa Safo is declared vacant. The minority on that committee say that is not the agreement they had, and that such a decision was not even taken. It is not clear yet when this report will be debated and a vote taken, but they say that when the report is taken, they will make the argument forcefully that the majority have just put out a report that does not reflect the work the committee did.
But have we been hearing from the majority on these allegations?
So MPs are mostly tight-lipped about the situation. When it comes to such situations that affect their MPs, they want to wait for the report to be debated on the floor first. We know that the leadership of both caucuses have issued a whip on their MPs to wait until the decision from the leaders on what position they are going to take. And so the House is expected to rise tomorrow, Thursday. It is not clear if the decision will be taken on this report, because the charter I'm picking is that the majority do not have a full complement of their members to be able to take a vote on this and win tomorrow or today. And so they might want to put a hold on it until the House comes from break in October and take that.
That's our parliamentary correspondent, Kweku Asante. We can hear from the MPs on their session about this Afrobarometer report. They've described it as unfair and stems from a lack of understanding of what the MPs do.
This is essentially a lawmaking. I will not for any moment say that MPs are saints and others, and for that matter, you cannot get anybody who does anything on top. I'm not saying that, but to say that the institution itself as a whole is manifestly so corrupt that it can be rated as a third. Respectfully.
What do you think fits into that perception?
Maybe some people have some disappointment with Parliament, MPs, for that matter, in terms of maybe the way the situation have gone to the point that life has deteriorated sharply for most Ghanaians. And so, in that anger, they can say that you refuse to do your work well. So that's what I'm saying. It depends on the parameters within corruption has been defined. If it's sometimes neglecting to do certain duties, like exercising critical oversight over the executive, which people think that maybe the allegation will be that you have been compromised because you have not done that. But they should be cognizant of the party system. That if you have a majority in the House, they will simply use their majority to pass. And anybody can bear eloquent testimony to how we have held the feet of government to the fire of accountability, we in the opposition.
Well, it's unfortunate that people could perceive MPs as third most corrupt, or Parliament as an institution for that matter. That's quite unfortunate.
Well, you hear there some MPs commenting on that Afrobarometer. ABF Husseini and Botiano, English Amanfro MP Sylvester Tete. I'll stay a while longer on corruption-related matters because renowned lawyer Chatu Chikata is challenging the youth of Ghana to make integrity a critical determinant of who is placed in leadership position at all levels and in all contexts of national life. According to him, corruption is more costly to the youth. Mr. Chikata, who was speaking at the 10 years commemorative lecture of the late President John Evans Atta Mills, said the public expects leadership to maintain honesty and integrity, and failure to do so is exposing the country to greater risks.
I'm using this commemoration to challenge especially the youth of our country to make individual character and integrity critical determinants of who we place in leadership positions at all levels and in all contexts of our national life. Needless to say, corruption is more costly to the youth simply because they have a longer span of the future ahead of them. And what is squandered from national resources today leaves the youth with less resources to fix the country to be the country we want. The public expects all of us to maintain honesty and integrity in what we do. I have concluded that the problem starts at the top.
Well, Mr. Chikata has also been extolling the virtues of the former president while asking current leadership to emulate him.
At a time when corruption and political vengeance and the abuse of power were on full display from the incumbent government, and when Ghanaians were tired of the cycles of vengeance in our politics and disgusted with all the corruption, with natural resources being squandered for personal enrichment, Professor Mills was a breath of fresh air. Not only did he show that a good man with integrity as his banner can win in politics, but his election showed that character and virtue remain at the heart of human aspiration, and that even in politics, integrity matters. Deep in our hearts.
Well, what would the late president say or about the raging Asumdwe Park controversy? Listen to Mr. Chikata's impression.
Since Sunday morning, 24th July 2022, we have seen at Asumdwe Park, President Mills' resting place, that what is now inscribed over his grave and under his bust does not even have his name. Was he really the one being honored in that event where this inscription was unveiled? But I can almost hear him, after listening to me utter those last two sentences, saying calmly, "Oh, Dama, mankasa won why? Oh, really? Don't bother about them." Throughout President Mills' political life, he maintained his human decency.
That's Chachi Chikata delivering the 10 years commemorative lecture of the late President John Evans Atta Mills. Well, 10 years after his death, here's what some Ghanaians have been saying about President Atta Mills' legacy.
The legacy I can say is his effort for the nation. The way people are working for the nation, instead of them accounting for a proper account for the nation, people do things and take monies in a dubious ways without even thinking of the nation. But they prefer their pocket more than the nation. And you know, when Atta Mills was on power, he was talking bitterly about that thing.
He's a very humble president who think of the people. But some people, most of the past presidents, if you advise them, they usually don't take advice.
I don't think it's right for Kwanyido to do such a thing without informing the family. You know, in our Ghanaian culture, we respect the dead a lot. And someone who is not part of the family, even though the man has chosen you as his son and he works with you, if anything at all, you have to consult the family, and then if there's any ritual, they can perform.
Controversies about his death and how they are doing the Asumdwe Park and things. That things, I think Ghana will cherish dead people.
What I remember the president is he's a man of peace.
He's a very transparent person and he's an honest person. He makes sure the right thing is being done at the right time. He's the only president who allowed the immigration to search him even when he's traveling. It means he doesn't have anything to hide, and you will never forget him.
Some of your views on the legacy of the late Professor John Evans Atta Mills. You're still listening to the Midday News. We're live on Joy 99.7 FM in Accra. In Kumasi, it's on Love 99.5 FM. We are live on Facebook and myjoyonline.com. Now, barely after 2 years of experience in a global recession, another is brewing as the IMF predicts the global growth rate will slow from last year's 6.1% to 3.2% this year and 2.9% next year. Now, this reflects stalling growth in the world's three largest economies, the United States, China, and the European Union, with important consequences for the global outlook. We can hear from the IMF.
Seen in decades, and so here really very clearly the monetary conditions have to be very different. All the monetary easing that was done during the pandemic 2020-2021 has to be reeled back, and in fact central banks around the world have to position themselves really so that inflation in the near term, maybe within a year and a half, is going to be coming down back to central bank target.
That's Pierre-Olivier Gourin-Charles. He's a chief economist, International Monetary Fund. According to the fund, central banks of major advanced economies are withdrawing monetary support faster than was expected in April, while many in emerging market and developing economies had already started raising interest rates last year. Let's bring in Professor Godfrey Bokping, an economist and professor of finance at the University of Ghana. We are grateful for your time. So it looks like the IMF has concerns about central banks and their disregard for inflation, for instance. What would you say will be the implication for Ghana, especially seeing as our economy is in dire straits?
Yes, thank you very much. Good afternoon, and good afternoon to our listeners. Yeah, so the picture is quite gloomy, even at the global level, and again, it has implication for Ghana. It has implication for the region, the sub-region, and for Ghana. If you look at what the media review in terms of the revised macro targets, okay, we have reduced the growth outlook from what it was in the 2022 budget to something lower than that now. It's a reflection of also the rates at the global level. Of course, there's also a pass-through to Ghana, but we have also our own local policy challenges that we have to deal with. So once growth is projected to subdue this way, rising debt and all of that, again, it has implications for monetary policy conduct. If you look at Ghana right now, the rising public debt, it has implications for the effectiveness of monetary policy conduct. If you look at rising inflation, it has implications for monetary policy conduct. If you look at where our debt level is right now, and then the associated servicing cost, it has implications for growth-enhancing spending. If you look at where inflation is right now, and even the revised target as contained in the media review, it has implications for debt sustainability, because your debt repayment capacity is also dependent on your real GDP growth. It's also dependent on your revenue generation. So once you are forecasting that your revenue, your GDP growth is going to be slower than what it was originally predicted, it has implications for revenue generation because you only collect in proportion to the size of your economy also. It also has implications for consumption.
Okay.
It has implications for output. It has implications for income.
Well, we've heard allegations about the Bank of Ghana, for instance, printing CDs amongst others. We've heard the BOG fight off that claim, dismiss it amongst others. But from where you sit, you think we're really paying attention to inflation, the central bank ought to?
Well, I think from what I read from the last MPC meeting and keeping the policy rate is that probably they've gotten to their weight end where they think that using monetary policy is not necessarily effective now in containing the threat of inflation, because if you look at the gap between the policy rate and then the inflation rate right now, you can see that disparity is also that it's harder fighting inflation now with monetary policy, rather, but we have to look at other specific interventions more from the fiscal side in terms of the real sector also responding. That is an issue. About the printing of CDs, look, it's quite debatable, right? Also because of the way Bank of Ghana is structured and the lack of accountability measures in there. I'll give you an example. Hello?
Listening, sir.
In 2014, our vice president, when he was in opposition, gave a lecture at Central University College. The lecture was on restoring the value of the CD. He elaborated the causes, more looking at it from the fundamentals of the economy. One of the things he talked about was the printing of CDs, measured in terms of the net opening position in terms of Bank of Ghana and then Ghana government. He indicated that the excess injection of liquidity in 2012 was more than 40%. It was more than 35% in 2013. The response from Bank of Ghana was to deny that. It's almost like multiple choice. Choose the one that you believe in, all of that. But it's just a matter of time. Many of these things will be out there soon.
Okay, we are grateful for your time. That's Professor Godfrey Bokping there. We've been talking about the IMF painting a gloomy picture about economies around the world. We'll take a quick break here on the Midday News. We've also been focusing on the office of the presidency. They've been fighting off claims that government is corrupt, and that's according to the latest Afrobarometer report, which ranked the presidency as the second most perceived corrupt institution. In fact, all three arms of government are making a showing, with the media, which is the fourth arm of government, being the least corrupt institution. When we return, if you are contemplating embarking on a long journey, you can't have sex. Yes, why?
God created sex, you have sex. If you're a man, you are knocked off, you'll be sleeping. And that is why immediately after sex, you find the man either snoring. He's tired.
And much later, also, the oldies are taking over the battle of the newbies and they are dropping the bar. So it's the Ghana Niger Rap Challenge starring mothers of rappers.
One fat woman for Ghana, which flow they in match?
I'm not surprised though. I knew someone could come test. I was expecting Emefa. Why you bring him over, darling?
Yema Wakwaba, but Aquaba Magic Busia, brand new channel, Tia Roba, Emuno Chiao, Ewo DSTV channel 149, and Go TV channel 108. And Yanom Aquaba Magic Busia, and the Niger Ghanaian programs mu Baufi, a bit said the day to have and to hold, and Yom Senior Cassia series and a talk show, Bemoaka TV sets Nichi, Aquaba Magic Busia, Ewo DSTV access to your 50 Ghana cedis per and Go TV value to your 25 Ghana cedis per Ebusia Aquaba.
Thanks for staying with us here on the Midday News. Let's do sports.
Well, Emefa, following Isaac Dogwe's title elimination victory over Joet Gonzalez, two-time IBF bantamweight champion Joseph Agbeko has urged Dogwe to challenge for the WBC featherweight title. Dogwe stated his intent to fight for the WBO featherweight title after the victory, but Agbeko wants the 27-year-old to plan differently. We can now hear from Agbeko, but first, here is Isaac Dogwe.
It's been a character building moment for me personally. It's one that I'm actually proud of because I believe that I have matured over the years. Right now, I feel I am well prepared, to face the world.
Me personally, I think it would be good for him to go to the WBC. Sometimes whenever you lose your last fight, going into another fight is that the last fight always keep hunting you. So Navarrete and the WBC champion, I would prefer he goes for the WBC champion. Definitely, Dogbe is going to win at the WBC. And if he wins the WBC and going in with Navarrete as a unified championship, first of all, financial benefit-wise, it's going to go higher because two champions will be coming together as a unification fight. So it's going to go higher. And then respect-wise, Navarrete is going to give him a lot of respect because he has been able to make himself a champion again and coming to unify with him.
Well, so that's all we have for you for sports. Hopefully, Agbeko, we'll see what Isaac Dugbe will do about it.
Well, there's more on myjoyonline.com, right?
Absolutely.
Razak, thank you for sports. Now, health professionals at the Kumasi South Hospital have resorted to the use of plastic water bottles as improvisation in the absence of required machines needed to aid breathing for preterm babies. Lack of the life-saving machine is accounting for some child deaths, according to experts. We can hear from head of the Mother and Baby Unit, Dr. Rita Fusiyeboa, explaining that the unit is operating more than twice of its installed capacity of 13 beds. Nayajima has the rest of the story.
Head of Mother and Baby Unit, Dr. Rita Fusiyeboa, explains the facility has only one CPAP equipment needed to aid breathing in children. This is described as one of the three major causes of death in children. She explains how health professionals at the hospital are improvising to save babies.
And what we use, a mineral water bottle, and try to treat the pressure that the machine would have created for us. Of course, the difference is, you cannot measure the pressure that you are giving to the newborn. Two, have no idea how much oxygen. But this is something that is a local, would I say, an improvised something.
Yeah. How many of these machines do you think Kumasi South needs, for example?
Okay, so ideally, we would need about 4 CPAP machines. If you have a baby, like you have 2 or 3 preterms, who needs to be kept warm, and they are not ready for what we call kangaroo mother care, they have to, the 3 of them would share one radiant warmer.
That's Dr. Rita Fusiyeboa, head of the Mother and Baby Unit at the Kumasi South Hospital.
I said, get on board.
Don't worry.
Give me your number.
Doctor, what's my name?
Your service number.
Meet you at FU.
I should meet you at FU.
Meet me there. You are the one brought me here.
So, excerpts of a video of a public argument between Corporal Boache, an officer with the Form Police Unit, and Superintendent Albert Kwanzaa, were told that the Ghana Police Service has triggered its internal disciplinary processes in that misunderstanding over police duties, which resulted in that heated verbal exchanges. We can hear from the DCE of the area.
Checks reveal the misunderstanding started on the morning of Wednesday, July 20th, at a spot between Yabi and Dida on the Achuma-Fuansi Road, where Corporal Boache and some members of the formed police unit were conducting motor checks.
Henceforth, you are supposed to be in charge. If I see anybody outside any other place, I will tell from.
Well, we'll be getting more of that subsequently.
Safe driving saves lives. Drive safe.
And I bet you may be embarking on a long journey just in a few days or in a few hours. Let me tell you something. You can't have sex before you do that. They've been explaining.
Who suffers from fatigue? Drivers who do not plan their trip, drivers who stay drinking at night, drivers who work overnight, drivers who have sex during their journey. They are all part of it.
Drivers who do what?
They have sex during their journey. God created sex, you have sex. If you're a man, you are knocked off, you'll be sleeping. And that is why, immediately after sex, you find the man either snoring. He's tired. He's run more than 100 meters. So you don't go and sit behind the steering wheel to drive.
And that's how you drive safe. And just before we go, the never-ending battle for musical supremacy between Ghana and Nigeria just took a whole new turn. What started as only a Mother's Day dedication from Ghanaian rapper CJ Bigaman now has mothers of rappers from both countries stepping up to the mic, dropping bars and counting bars. So I'll leave you with that. There's more when you log on to my joy9.com. Living Word with Pastor Mensa Otabil comes after we drop these bars. I am Emefa Apawu.
Big mama, fresh with that. When it comes to the bass, I am the best. I deliver like giving birth. For giving birth, I do it with no stress. Oh yes, queen of the kitchen, queen of the mic. I pull up with the cat. They pull up with the mic. We are not the same. They are not my size. Small girls, swallow your pride.
Mommy Dollars is the queen. Tell all these rappers to stop making noise. My flow they make headlines. Tell this baba to stop making noise. I'm the best in the game. Who want battle me? Go boss it. One fat woman for Ghana. Which flow they in match? Go boss it.
I'm not surprised though. I knew someone would come test. I was expecting Emefa. Why you bring him over, darling? Okay, I'm your forest hero. Turning you back to Naira. This battle you come call, I go make you vanish like you become fat. Hey, this won't be comedy. Get away with your basket.
Isn't life wonderful when everything worth doing is scheduled? Hitting the stop button on your alarm just in time for your morning jog. That happy moment listening to your baby's heartbeat at the doctor's office. Or an arranged virtual meeting with that big client.
Buy airtime ahead of time with scheduled airtime service on MTN Momo. You can schedule your airtime purchase of any amount daily, weekly, or monthly by dialing *170# option 3 and follow the process. Or simply dial *170*311# for a superb airtime purchase experience. You enjoy
with a taste of modernity. Then we go to Cape Town in South Africa, where I take you to the V&A waterfront, and oh my God, you can't miss this. A must-visit place is a must-see place.